ESPN's Todd McShay's latest mock draft that came out this week takes into effect not only the NFL Combine, but the quarterback situation inside the top 10, more specifically, Anthony Richardson. He completely changes the top 10 and has some really surprising mock draft picks because of it. Let's take a look at Todd McShay's latest mock draft on today's show. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome to the Thomas Mott Show on a very, very busy NFL week. I mean, stuff is happening left and right, but I wanted to pause and take a second to look at Todd McShay's post-combine NFL mock draft. We'll go pick by pick, looking at every single team with trades and see where he has all the craziness going after all those really, really impressive combine workouts. So let's start with the very first pick, and that, of course, is going to be the projected trade you see here with the Bears moving out of one. That's heavily reported. They've signed on Justin Fields being a long-term quarterback, so they're going to move back. Colts go up, and they get their quarterback, and it is Alabama's Bryce Young. No shocker here. Now, there are some people talking about Rich Eisen saying that Anthony Richardson could go as high as number one, but if Richardson is not, reached for and taken number one overall, Bryce Young is the best quarterback in this draft. Don't think about the hand size. Don't think about the 5'10" frame. He is a superstar in the making. And the Colts, well, new offensive coordinator Shane Steichen, becoming the head coach now, formerly of the Eagles, needs a young quarterback to develop. He did it with Jalen Hurts. Why not do it with another quarterback from basically the exact same university in Alabama in Bryce Young? Number two, the Texans, they take the next best quarterback on the board, and that is C.J. Stroud. You can't overthink C.J. Stroud in this draft. Again, Richardson, Will Levis, they're going to be, you don't want to pass up on Patrick Mahomes. You don't want to miss out on the next great quarterback. Just be smart. C.J. Stroud still can sling it. You showed that in the Georgia game in the college football playoff semifinal. I think he's still a very, very good option. And I think DeMeco Ryans is building a pretty solid roster. Curious to see what they do in free agency, but the Houston Texans could make some noise in what is a pretty average division this year. Love the pick of C.J. Stroud. Arizona's definitely a trade-back candidate, but they need defensive help, and Will Anderson has been a very, I'd say, common mock pick for them there at number 3. Todd McShay agrees. They take Will Anderson, probably the best overall player in this draft, the outside linebacker, pass rusher out of Alabama. Now, how about another projected trade? This shows you, again, the effect of Anthony Richardson, and this is going to help Philadelphia, which we'll talk about here in a second. The more quarterbacks that go early, the more prospects that get pushed back that should be in the top 5 that now end up at 8 or 9 or 10. And Richardson blowing away the combine numbers, setting all those records, shows you the effect here. Let's say the Raiders don't get a quarterback in free agency. I mean, they already lost Derek Carr earlier this week, although that was already a guarantee. But if they don't get Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady doesn't come out of retirement, all these different options at quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, then they need to go get one. And so they trade up with the Bears again and go ahead and get Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida. Now, I'm very, I'd say bullish, or I say bearish on Anthony Richardson in terms of the bull versus bear market, just because we don't know exactly what he is. Is he Josh Allen? Is he Cam Newton? Is he Lamar Jackson? Is he a combination of the three? Is he going to be an absolute bust? We're talking about Jamarcus Russell. I don't know. What I do know is this week, Dan Orlovsky pointed out he had some of the highest drop rate by wide receivers during his time at Florida and all of college football, which might have reduced his expectations or numbers a little bit here. He still will go in the top 10. I'm still fine with that, but you are very much risking at least the dice roll a little bit here versus what seems to be a guarantee in Bryce Young, or pretty much guarantee in C.J. Stroud. But Chicago doing the right thing and getting picks to acquire more talented players. They move back. Raiders come up. Your pick here at number 4. Number 5, we the Seattle Seahawks, Tyree Wilson, the defensive end at Texas Tech. I talked to a scout earlier this week who said that Tyree Wilson is one of the most freakish players in this draft. He thinks he might be one of the best pass rushers behind Will Anderson. Seattle agrees with that here. They take him at number 5. Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback out of Oregon, is McShay's first cornerback taken. McShay talks about how Detroit obviously needs defensive help, but he also goes into the idea that he likes Gonzalez better than Devin Witherspoon, obviously Joey Porter Jr., other cornerbacks that will go somewhere in the top 15 or top 20. He has Gonzalez going first, though. The Bears, they go with Peter Skoronski, the offensive tackle or guard out of Northwestern, get some help to protect their young quarterback and Justin Fields, and obviously they still have many more picks, not only in 2024, but later on in this draft pick. You think maybe going here, whether it's defensive line, you think maybe going with some sort of offensive player, but you get the best player on the board in terms of offensive linemen, and that makes a ton of sense. Nolan Smith, the outside linebacker out of Georgia, goes number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. Smith absolutely shredded the NFL Combine, and this 4.39 40-yard dash and 41.5-inch vertical leap are going to definitely boost his draft stock. A little high here for me for Atlanta, but they've always needed pass rusher help, and they get another one here in Nolan Smith. Will Levis at number 9, the quarterback out of Kentucky. Levis is, he's again, very interesting because I talk to people who think he could be an absolute bust, or they think he's going to be very Josh Allen-like with terms of arm strength and being able to throw the football down the field. I'm not that confident in Levis. I do think he's the fourth best quarterback in this draft class, so fourth all the way down. But with Carolina losing out on most likely the Aaron Rodgers situation, and for sure the Derek Carr because he's a Saint, they got to get a quarterback somewhere. And do you feel confident in Jimmy Garoppolo or Sam Darnold? I don't. Go build your future quarterback with a good offensive-minded head coach in Frank Reich and get Will Levis out of Kentucky. Before we go ahead and get into the Eagles pick and the rest of the top 10, and I should say really the rest of the overall first-round draft, I want to show you guys my March Madness challenge with our friends at TFM and Viget. This is a really, really cool opportunity to bet on March Madness in a fantasy betting league that Viget offers and win a bunch of money. All you got to do is pick one of the sportsbook partners at the link in the description box. You'll see it down below me right now that you haven't already signed up for. DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, Bet365. Sign up, go ahead and place, your $10 bet on any sort of game, and then send us a picture of your bet slip to Jeremy at Savage.Ventures, Jeremy at Savage.Ventures. That's the email to send your bet slip to, and we will go ahead and give you the password to the Fantasy Viget League, where you don't spend any money in there, but every person that joins, the pot gets $50 bigger. And so we're going to have a bunch of people in this fantasy betting league. I'm going to be in it. The top 10 place finishers are going to be sharing, in terms of different, percentage splits, the overall pot. So if you win this fantasy betting league during March Madness, which starts day one of the tournament and goes until the national championship game, you could be winning a couple of $1,000 depending on how many people join this league. Again, once you sign up for DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, or Bet365 and place that first bet, then you get the password to go ahead and enter into the league. It's all totally free. I mean, literally totally free. Done a lot of great stuff with Viget. Jump in on this right now as the tournament is coming up here next week. You want to join the league as quickly as possible. All details, the link down below, will take you to this page. All right, back to number 10 here in the draft. How about that, Eagle fans? Obviously, I'm one of them. Bijan Robinson, number 10 for Philadelphia. And this obviously comes from the fact that they are going to lose Miles Sanders in free agency, most likely losing Miles Sanders in free agency. If they were to re-sign Miles Sanders, maybe they already have by the time you watch this show, then obviously you wouldn't go Bijan Robinson here. But McShay's whole idea is that they're going to lose Miles Sanders and that Bijan Robinson is the best running back prospect to come out of the NFL draft since Adrian Peterson. And while Philadelphia is going to have a lot of defensive holes, some secondary holes, some defensive line holes, you can make the argument offensive line holes. Bijan Robinson and McShay's overall take is one of the greatest offensive talents, again, to come out of the draft. And you pair him with Hurts and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, it could be an unstoppable force on offense. Now, I have my reservations about Bijan Robinson. I don't think Howie Roseman will take Bijan Robinson, but I've always said, if they do take him, I will cheer it just because I think it'd be so fun to watch the Eagles have one of the best backs in the league with this already insane rushing attack with Jalen Hurts, the passing game on the outside, and the great offensive line up the middle. I don't hate this pick. I would love to know your idea on this pick down below in the comment section, but Robinson will make a lot of Eagle fans so happy if they take him at number 10. Paris Johnson, the Tennessee Titans, the offensive tackle from Ohio State at 11. At 12, obviously, another trade. This obviously happened prior to the NFL draft. This is the Deshaun Watson trade. Jalen Carter, so he falls big time outside of the top 10, going 12 to the Houston Texans, following, of course, the arrest for reckless driving and racing in connection with a crash that killed the Bulldogs teammate and a recruiting staff member. Teams are going to do their due diligence. If he is cleared, Jalen Carter will go back inside the top 10, but if there's still kind of some question marks, he's still going to be drafted in the first round because he might be the best defensive tackle in the entire draft, but he's going to fall a little bit here. I think Philadelphia would take a good, long, hard look at Carter at 10, but if they don't feel confident in whether it's a character issue, a legal issue, whatever it is, then they would pass and go somewhere else. But this would be an insane draft for the Texans to pull out C.J. Stroud at 2 and Jalen Carter at number 12. Would be absolutely insane. Broderick Jones, the tackle out of UGA, goes next to the New York Jets, possibly to protect maybe Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? The New England Patriots take Quentin Johnston, the first wide receiver off the board, the absolute beast. I mean, this guy, 11'2" broad jump, 40.5-inch vertical leap, the wide receiver out of TCU. This would be the receiver that Mac Jones really needs up there in New England. He's 6'3", 208 pounds. Just a beast. Michael Mayer, the tight end, goes to the Green Bay Packers. Meyer's a fantastic tight end. He's a tight end 1 for sure. I don't know about Green Bay needing a tight end desperately, depending on what sort of question marks they're going to have. Maybe a wide receiver in terms of Jordan Addison makes more sense, but McShay goes Michael Mayer at 15. There's Devin Witherspoon, the cornerback, at 16 out of Illinois to the Commanders. I think Witherspoon might be a top maybe 12 pick, an option for the Eagles, but he falls in Todd McShay's mock draft here. Here's a run on cornerbacks. Emmanuel Forbes, the cornerback out of Mississippi State, goes 17 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Luke Van Ness, the very interesting defensive end out of Iowa, goes to Detroit to pair with Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston. That could be very impressive for a team that only had 39 sacks in 2022. Joey Porter Jr., the very physical, 6'3" frame, cornerback out of Penn State, goes to the Bucs at number 19. And Myles Murphy, the pass rusher from Clemson, falls to 20. His draft stock was falling a little bit, and previous mock drafts, he was definitely going to go into the top 15. Jordan Addison, another interesting receiver out of USC, goes to the Chargers, potentially losing Keenan Allen, although I think they're going to try to go ahead and keep him. But an option here, obviously Mike Williams is often injured. They need some help for Justin Herbert. Addison makes some sense. And then you go over here, and we continue with Jackson Smith and Jiba, who I think is a very, very interesting prospect, and someone might actually take him a little bit further up. You see him obviously going here 22 to the Baltimore Ravens, very much a need for potentially Lamar Jackson-led football team, or maybe somebody else-led football team, who knows. But Smith and Jiba is one of those guys who was super injured, but also had an insane combine, and I think that the overall skills are going to have him elevate a little bit higher than maybe 22. Deontay Banks, the cornerback out of Maryland, goes to the Minnesota Vikings. They have need cornerback help. Patrick Peterson is 32 years old and a free agent, and the Vikings allowed, as you see here, 66.7% completion percentage, 9th highest in the league last year. I think Philadelphia shredded them in week 2. They need some help at the cornerback spot. Darnell Wright, the tackle for the Jaguars from Tennessee, goes up to 24. Zay Flowers, the wide receiver out of Boston College, helps out potentially $40 million a year. Daniel Jones at 25. And then as we get into the latter parts of the draft, you're really kind of trying to find who are those steals, who are those players that are going to be quote-unquote value picks, and Dallas tries to get one here in Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah. Dalton Schultz is a free agent, big-time favorite target of Dak Prescott. You replace him here at 26. Keon White, the outside linebacker from Georgia Tech, goes 27 to the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, Von Miller doesn't seem to be getting any younger, so he gets some help there. Anton Harrison, the tackle out of Oklahoma, falls a little bit, but he's 28th here to the Bengals. And then the Saints, via the Denver, Miami, and San Francisco trade, get Brian Brisset, the defensive tackle out of Clemson, here at 29. Remember, in McShay's recent mock draft that we did, or most previous one, Philadelphia took Brisset, I think it's Brisset there at 29. Philly gets the steal of the draft here at 30, and I'm not joking, in Kancey, the defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. This guy, Kalijah Kancey, is, people are saying, the next Aaron Donald. He comes from Pittsburgh just like Aaron Donald did, and his numbers were absolutely incredible at the NFL Combine, and Philadelphia needs defensive tackle help. Now, Kancey had too good of a combine, in my opinion, to fall to number 30. But if Philadelphia came out of the first round with Bijan Robinson and Kancey with their first 2 first-round draft picks and didn't trade back, Philadelphia fans, including myself, would go absolutely nuts because they're probably going to lose Hargrave, Cox, Graham, maybe Quinn, for sure Quinn, and Ndamukong Suh, and Linval Joseph. Finally, Derek Hall, defensive end out of Auburn, goes to Kansas City at 31, and that rounds out the top first round, the top 31, because, of course, the Dolphins forfeited their first-round draft pick for that tampering weirdness that happened with Tom Brady. What do you guys think of McShay's new first-round mock draft? I think it's pretty accurate. And I say this, mock drafts are wrong all the time because it's impossible to predict the first round, but McShay knows his stuff. Met the guy multiple times. I think he's very knowledgeable in what he does. I think he has the top 10 pretty close to what it's going to be. It's never perfect, but I do think he did a very good job. Rate the Eagle picks down below. Give me your thoughts on those. And, of course, stay tuned for plenty more content happening in the next couple of days and weeks here. I think Philadelphia is going to be very busy, especially next week when free agency starts. So subscribe, get us to 10K subs, and, of course, hit that thumbs up button and be ready for all of the craziness. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.